Hi everyone, welcome back to the Action Movie Show. It is a glorious Saturday afternoon. Not our usual times, but the way it worked out schedule-wise, that's how it works. So I'm Carlos Alcazar, and as always with me is my associate Manyninjas. Say hi, Manyninjas.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going?
I'm still waiting for them to reply to you.
Well, we're waiting for the reply. Yeah, in terms of the scheduling this week, it is a bit of a mess. As I mentioned last week, going into this section, I was actually at the Conbro convention in Hamilton, Ontario, over the past weekend. We pretty much had a good time, but unfortunately, on top of all the little trinkets and everything that came back, I also came back with a rather nasty cold and cough, which kind of offset our schedule for this particular week. So that didn't exactly help matters, and I'm still a little under it as today, to be quite honest. So if I sound a little off key, that's why.
Indeed, but Manyninjas is going to trudge through because we have one element of what I like to call the glorious subgenre of John Travolta is crazy. 1996. Broken Arrow, starring John Travolta and Christian Slater. So Manyninjas, any thoughts off the top about Broken Arrow?
All right. Well, the first key thought is I effectively consider this film an apology for a face-off because while it did have John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, and they're both at some point were actually pretty damn crazy, it did not feature nearly enough crazy John Travolta for what it is. It's mostly the crazy Nicolas Cage show that kind of stole the whole thing since he spent most of the time on camera. So in order to make up for it, now we're doing Broken Arrow, where it is clear left, right, and center crazy John Travolta. And how?
Oh, indeed. So, tell you what I'm going to do is, let me go over the premise real quick. I'll just read it off the back. In this explosive action thriller directed by John Woo, renegade Air Force pilot Vic Deakins, John Travolta, has stolen 2 nuclear warheads as part of an extortion plot. But there's a fly in the ambitious thief's ointment. Riley Hale, played by Christian Slater, Vic's former co-pilot, whom Vic thought he had killed when he stole the bombs. And we'll discuss a little bit about that, but that's basically the premise. Steal the nuclear warheads, save the cheerleader, save the world. Or something like that.
Replace cheerleader with park ranger, and honestly, yeah, you're about right.
Indeed. So, just for myself, non-spoilery element, this movie is campy as hell, which is glorious. Mid-90s campiness is one of the best campiness there is. Crazy John Travolta is also a true subgenre, which really deserves its own box set. In fact, if we could have Crazy Nicolas Cage and Crazy John Travolta as a box set, I would just buy that on its own. John Travolta is at his crazy best, and he will play effectively the same kind of character that is far, far, far off the wall more times than we can count. But in this particular one, he was at the mid-90s. He was kind of at the peak of his powers when it came to the crazy John Travolta-ness. His own personal craziness notwithstanding, but movie craziness we're talking about. So in this one here, you've got him doing a great job as kind of your villain, and then Christian Slater doing an adequate job as his foil to fight off with it. Plus, you've got Howie Long in here kind of as a good old-fashioned henchman. You've got some other really good actors in there as well that do a reasonable job. Realistically, there's not that much for them to do, so it's not like anyone was in any danger of winning an Oscar. But when you have decent actors, even if they're not given too much, at least they can make that part of it work. The plot is convoluted and ridiculous. The premise is silly. It's paper kind of thin as well, but it's fun. It's one of those things where you've got, I think, runtime 108 minutes. So an hour and 48 minutes, still under 2 hours comfortably. It moves along rather nicely. You get from beginning, middle, and end. You get the climactic scenes which you need. You need the final showdown, and you get that. Everything is wrapped up kind of nicely, and you've got kind of sort of a love story intertwined in between. We don't obsess over it, but it's there. So you've got all the pieces covered in kind of your standard action movie 101. Along with some crazy John Travolta, it's a fun ride.
Let's be honest here, ladies and gentlemen. You're here watching this film for crazy John Travolta because Christian Slater, while he does his job as the protagonist, pretty much the hero of the story, he's not all that interesting. The side character has a few moments here and there, but interesting. The henchmen, they're honestly nice there. The rich, I can't remember what they explained. The person who basically invested for this whole heist, he's there, but he's kind of annoying most of the time. Realistically, John Travolta, as his crazy ass self, is the one carrying the majority of this film. That's how it works. That's why you're watching this film. And if that's not what you wanted, you needed to pick another film. That's what's going on here. There's nothing more to say there. And as crazy John Travolta, he does his job really well. Although, in terms of handling his protagonist, he does a pretty bad job of it as the film goes on, as we'll talk about more in a moment.
Indeed. So, with all that said, let's get into the movie. So it's kind of simple. We start off the movie actually with kind of a boxing sequence. Something that will foreshadow, certain elements of this will foreshadow what will come later on. So you've got John Travolta and Christian Slater boxing. And John Travolta is taking this very, very seriously. So he's to the point that he's, beating the crap out of Christian Slater, whilst mocking him and trying to teach him a few different things. As part of that, he teaches him a couple of different moves, a couple of way of thinking of it. He's like, stop looking at my hands, look at my shoulder, it's coming from my shoulder. He's taunting him, and at the same time, he also explains to him the rope-a-dope. For those of you who are not too familiar with boxing, the rope-a-dope is a concept that came with Muhammad Ali against George Foreman in their Rumble in the Jungle, as memory serves, I think. Regardless, it was in their boxing match where he really coined that phrase and really made it a thing. It was the premise where he allowed George Foreman to fight him, punch him and punch him, completely punch himself out, and as a result of that, as soon as he completely wore himself out, he had been fighting in one direction, the direction got changed immediately right after, because Muhammad Ali had been waiting for that moment, and as soon as he wore himself out, then he turned it on and reversed course on the whole fight. That's the rope-a-dope, basically. And they do use this to foreshadow something that will come later on. So I thought it was a good opening sequence, kind of to establish kind of the relationship and also kind of foreshadow what will come later. But then at the same time we establish, all right, they're Air Force pilots, they're going to fly a mission. Now, I can't recall, when I was watching the beginning of it, I know it was a training run to show something off, but the only part that I was a little confused about, and they probably did mention it, but I only caught it in passing. They were talking about what the plan was for it. The only part I couldn't figure out was why they had the nuke with that rather large payload on the plane in the first place in order to run this training mission where they were going to try to see if they could evade the radar. Now, you have to have it because that's basically the point of the story, is that we're stealing these nuclear weapons, and that's going to be what's going to lead into everything else. But right off the bat, you've got that setup. All right, so now we've got these two here. We did a little bit of foreshadowing. Now we're on the plane. We're going to fly it out. And then the moment of betrayal comes. When the moment of betrayal comes, they end up having a fight on a low-flying stealth fighter with 2 nuclear weapons on it, flying at high speed over the Utah desert. It's kind of ridiculous if you think about it, because really, that plane should have crashed about 10 times before the end of that fight. And they end up doing the exact same thing over and over again. So right off the bat, you're looking at it. John Travolta is crazy for no other reason than picking the dumbest possible way in which to try to steal the nukes, getting into a fight with another Air Force pilot on a stealth fighter, low-flying over the Utah desert.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things where they try to explain it as it's all part of the master plan later, but at least on the surface, no, this is a terrible plan because A, your plan is to pretty much shoot and kill the other pilot on the plane, or assuming if something hit the glass, hypothetically something should depressurize there and cause considerable flight troubles while you're still in mid-flight.
I think you know what, let me interject for 1 second. I'm not sure about the physics on this, and I'm not sure about the exact thing. I don't know if the cabin pressure is as big a deal at the low altitude. I think that would change the thing, but it's still a stupid idea. You're firing off a gun inside of an enclosed space in the cockpit of a stealth fighter that's flying at high speed at very low altitude.
At the best scenario, something ricochets, and you possibly could hurt yourself with your own bullet if something ricochets the wrong way. And the worst scenario, your co-pilot also has a gun of his own, and you could have easily been killed there on the spot. And pretty much that would flummox your whole plan there. But of course, no, for the sake of the film, he does manage to get the... One second, gotta echo that for a second. Yeah, he does manage to get around the issue by effectively ejecting his pilot, or co-pilot, which supposedly kills him, and of course drops off the nuke somewhere where he and his crew can attempt to retrieve it later, only to eject safely there, not bothering to think, hey, if I could eject safely from my scenario there, and my co-pilot ejected in a very similar fashion, what are the chances he probably survived it too, or had a good chance of survival at least?
I was going to say, what the fuck was he thinking? The premise is, all right, he's dead because I ejected him out of the plane. But in order to escape the plane before it crashes, you have to eject out of the plane. If you're going to survive your ejection, who's to say that the other guy is not going to survive an almost identical ejection from the same scenario? You're still going at the same altitude, going at the same speed out of the same plane. What makes you think that his ejection will kill him, whereas you'll completely survive yours?
Yeah. All right, so that moves on, really. Let's move on to the next part, okay? I've found John Travolta's character. What's his name again? The character's name?
Deacon. 1 second. I'll give it to you. Vic Deakins.
Okay, so I'm Deakins. I've thought I've survived. I've safely ejected and killed the only witness, who I've done a terrible job of killing, by the way. Okay, but now I'm meeting with my crew. We're meeting around to, unfortunately, to the left side. 1 second. Ouch. Should not cough and mess as well. We are now meeting onto the site where the nukes approximately are, but of course now they're pretty much Air Force attendants trying to reclaim the bombs themselves. But it's okay, because I happen to have my own ringers on site in order to help make sure that I secure the thing and set up a scenario where I'm going to be able to cause a delay in further attempts to retrieve the bombs by saying that one of the nukes are leaking, and thus radiation warning. So they have to go through the extra trouble in order to check that stuff. Which is great. And for some reason, actually really clever at that point. Except for the small thing. What if they actually managed to fight off the one treacherous guy? And that kind of flummoxed there, because in terms of the crew that turned for the retrieval team, it was just the one guy. At that point, you might want to retreat a little more from there, and maybe you'll be able to get away with it that way, and having to use blind. Oh, and okay, we discover, yeah, as it turns out, yeah, the co-pilot you thought you killed, you did a terrible job of that. Okay, send the attack copter after him. And of course, the attack copter gets taken down by the one guy with a revolver, a 6-shooter. At that point, I said, like, maybe we should just forget that guy and get around somewhere else. And just get the hell out of Dodge, because of all the other stuff there, we'll be able to just kind of get away scot-free. But no, we kind of just flummox around with that guy a little bit more later, which of course gives him room to attempt to come in successfully, take the nukes from us at a later point. There are a lot of little bad planning bits, which end up leading to the whole mess that the character ends up facing later on.
Yeah, I did find that it was like you had two sides going to it. On the one hand, Travolta's master plan did have a lot of contingencies built into it. His understanding of the military protocol meant that he knew that by leaving them with the idea that one of the nuclear cores had been exposed, they would back off and then check with the satellites, scan for radiation, go through all the procedures and protocols to make sure before then they send another team over to secure the nuclear weapons. Good, very good planning. So he did all that. But at the same time, other pieces of it, he's got the one helicopter to move the nuclear weapons. He's got his trucks. He's got a relatively small crew because he wants to keep it relatively under control. There ended up being a lot of other, okay, this is all best case scenario. We've got a mine that we've set up. We've done these things. We've laid this groundwork. Being in the Utah desert, they were hoping it'd be more or less abandoned so they could kind of have their run of this situation. There was a lot of good planning, but then a lot of other parts of this plan were contingent upon a little bit of luck. And if one thing goes wrong, it sets everything in motion. Like, say, for example, you don't successfully kill your co-pilot and he hangs around. It ends up making everything else substantially more complicated, thus making Broken Arrow.
Yeah, it just happens to be the co-pilot is highly competent in this situation, which probably helps because, let's be honest, if it was a lesser character or less set up for what they had, it wouldn't have worked out in any way. So it's just a wide variety of dumb luck. But okay, it's like, okay, kill the co-pilot and eject the thing. Okay, downside on what happened is the reaction. The co-pilot didn't die. Okay, fine. Send the attack copter to get rid of them as the only witnesses on site. The attack copter goes down. Okay, we don't care anyway, because quite frankly, we have the trucks to move things anyway, and that was part of the initial plan. Alright, we move to there. Oh wait, the one that had the bombs got stolen. And they're taking it to a mine we had set up in order to try and disarm it. Hey, funny story. We weren't planning to have both nukes all along, and we rigged it, that whole mine and everything else there, as part of my plan all along. Where did that part run? How did anyone else... How did this come up there? I'm crazy John Travolta. It was part of my plan. I was going to set off a nuke anyway, just for shits and giggles. Alright, okay, we've officially lost one of the nukes. It's being blown up right now. Oh, and we're, at this point, because they discovered the thing early, we had all this distracted. A different attack copter came up to us. Oh, don't worry, the EMP will take care of them. Wait, you planned for that shit too? Of course, I'm John Travolta. And I'm out of my goddamn mind!
Yeah, pretty much. But that's why I was saying a moment ago that it's a weird thing where you can plan so far ahead where you've got the protocol figured out, and where in the back of your mind you figured out that the EMP is going to take out the helicopter at the appropriate moment. Also, you figured out the exact amount of distance that you need to drive in order to take out the helicopter with the EMP and not blow up your truck.
He effectively planned for his own failures up to the point where it begs the point, if you were planning on failing that much, why not make a slightly better plan where you don't fail at all and you properly take care of this shit?
That doesn't make for a very good movie, sir.
Apparently not. So, alright, okay, at this point, EMP has taken out their attack copter. The truck is still viable, though, so they take that in order to go to the train setup in order to start moving the remaining bomb there. And, of course, the train setup has, on top of other things, a helicopter that just happens to be docked on there just for convenience sake. Okay, using the helicopter for what? Our escape. What's going to go on with the bomb? Oh, yeah, even if we manage to get the money, yeah, we're going to blow up, I believe it was Denver at the end.
It's going to be Denver, yes.
Yeah, we're going to blow up Denver anyway, because the original location we were all hinting towards, that's where the rope-a-dope came in. Because I had to reference that multiple times in the film. Yeah, we put all these red herrings saying we're going to go one direction. We're going to the opposite coast, actually, and we're going to blow up the bomb no matter what. Whether we got the money or not, we're going to blow up the bomb. At least that seems to be what's heavily implied there.
No, I think the intention was that they were going to certainly, like how now I'm no picture. So yeah, technically they were going to blow up. 1 second. I'm just going to put the picture back on you for a second.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, okay. Now we're okay. So yeah, no, they were going to blow up the one for sure. The idea was to blow up the one to basically demonstrate that yes, we're going to do it. We can do it. We're willing. So that when it came time to, they wouldn't question it, and they would actually go in and pay the ransom, basically. The only way you could get them to pay the ransom for sure was to demonstrate that you will be willing to use the weapon. Well, you've got two of them, so if you set one off basically underground in a mine, you can still show off that you've got the weapon and you're willing to use it, but at the same time you still got one more in reserve that you can use as the threat. So you've got two birds with one stone in that, and that was basically the idea.
Yeah. Although, once again, it doesn't seem to reiterate whether or not, just because it's crazy John Travolta, whether he's going to set off the bomb regardless. And honestly, with that guy, you're not sure. This is crazy. And even his own the last remaining henchman thought is like, "You are completely out of your goddamn mind, aren't you?" Yep.
It's true. All right, just give me 1 second. I'm leaving it on you for a minute. I'm just looking for an item here and see if I can find it. Was there anything else that struck you about either that part of it or a different part of the movie?
Aside from the ever-rotating $20 bill, no. The problem is mostly talking about the antics of crazy John Travolta. We just kind of went over the course of the film until his ultimate failure, where they managed to disarm the bomb, have the trains collide, and he gets smacked right in the chest by the bomb into an explosion. But of course, since the bomb is properly shielded, the bomb itself survives without killing everyone. And oh yeah, the $20 bill that's been passed back and forth did survive, although very badly singed and burned by the end of the film. And yeah, no, that's actually, this is Broken Arrow in a nutshell. We've actually covered the film at this point, I think.
Indeed. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. What I'm going to do is I was actually trying to look for something. What I'm going to do is, let me just see if I can find it. I always dislike it whenever stuff vanishes on me. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take off the overlay here in a minute. I want to show you guys a couple of things. A couple of things that struck me about this movie that I did enjoy. The way it was set up is that you get hints that John Travolta is not all there right from the get-go. It's funny. Usually what you'll do is when there's going to be a betrayal, what you usually want to do is you want to reach a point where you go, okay, you start off, as a filmmaker, you want to do the rope-a-dope. You want to send everybody in one direction and then send them completely in another direction at the end. But with this movie, you could really get a sense, and I'll try to pull this up for you guys. Now let me just see if I can find it here. Let me see if I can get it on my screen. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do a little screen share for you guys. That might be the best way. If I can do it that way, if it'll let me. Yeah. Right off the bat, you've got the idea that John Travolta's not exactly all there.
If you're sharing something, I'm just seeing you right now.
I know. I'm actually trying to get it on my screen, but you have to bear with me for a second.
Yeah. Just as a quick reminder that the folks at home, we're using Google Plus Hangouts at this point, which at the best of times is contrived for certain setups. It works when we're talking to one another, but in terms of screen sharing and kind of video sharing, we have actually tried a little bit of that in the past, and while either of us in the conversation could see it, it didn't actually show in the recording session. So hopefully this time Carlos managed to figure out something that maybe he didn't share earlier that might help a bit.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I've got it here. The trick that I've been trying to get, I actually been trying to get this picture to come on my screen first because I want to get it there first before I even worry about the rest of it. All right, well, I'm going to try to do it this way. I didn't want to, but we'll do it in this manner, and I'll show you guys kind of what I'm seeing here. All right, so let me put on my little screen share item here. Bear with me for a second. It's going to be a little tricky, but I'll try to make it work. All right, so let's go over here. I'll actually show you guys what I'm working on here, just so you can see.
All right.
Yeah, bear with me, it's coming.
Yeah, well, I can see.
Yeah,
I can see something off Google Image. Hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually showing up. Otherwise, a quick description is basically a scene from very early in the film where it's still the boxing match.
Yeah. So right now, I'm actually pulling it up on the screen now. Now everybody can see it. All right. So take a look at this little picture here. Manyninjas can see it, and now the rest of you guys can too. All right, so this is John Travolta actually right from the beginning of the movie. So this is actually when he and Christian Slater are boxing. So what they're looking at right now is they're boxing at this time, and this is John Travolta's face during their boxing match. Now, does this look like anyone who could remotely resemble a good guy? This is when he and Christian Slater are still on good terms, presumably. This is the beginning of the movie. John Travolta is the face of pure psychotic evil right about here. This is when he's boxing Christian Slater at the beginning in a friendly sparring match.
I'm not sure he knows the term friendly. He's demented. That's the best.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point that I wanted to try to get across to everybody. Uh, Literally, dude looks psychotic right off the bat. Now, I do want to show you a few other scenes, a few other stills from the movie. You'll have to bear with me.
Not quite Gary Busey demented, but pretty damn close.
Absolutely. So, Manyninjas, I'm on you for the moment. So bear with me for a second. If you want to have a chat with the Mortal Kombat Bear for a moment, that'd be fine. Let me pull up another picture here to show everybody, and then I'll screen share it the same way.
Can you believe this? We're being used as stalling tactics while this guy's trying to set up this shit.
Damn right.
It's like, seriously, folks. At least back when we were doing stills on a more frequent basis, we haven't been doing a lot of them because of just general time constraints, some issues getting decent image captures in order to work there. At least we set the stuff at least in advance so we could just kind of slide it in as appropriate. No, he's literally making this shit up as it goes along in mid-recording. There are things to be done here. Nothing left to say at this point. We've covered most of the things that he said. But as I got some stuff there. I still got some stuff from the weekend I picked up that I need to clean up. Hell, I need to figure out how I'm going to make this work. One of the things I picked up on the weekend, actually, was a Famicom to NES converter, so I could play some of the Famicom carts I picked up, including a handful of, what's the best way to describe this? Bootleg multi-carts, which I picked up. Which the ironic part about this is I picked up the actual converter from Pat the NES Punk, which we can probably throw in a few links, although honestly in terms of video game stuff, and especially the retro game stuff, he's easily much more known than I am, so that's not even a question. But so I picked up the converter from him. There, and just one second. I picked up the converter from them, which fits in this one that I got from a separate buyer or a separate seller there. It's fine. But I also picked up a few extra multi-carts from him that were quote-unquote newer ones, and I didn't even realize at this time the extra multi-carts I bought from the guy don't even fit the converter that he actually sold me, because they actually made these fake carts too damn short.
I just want you to know that I've been ready for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, your volume's exploded too, man.
Yeah. Anyway, like I said, I've been ready for about a couple minutes.
I mean, you're actually way too loud, actually. You need to tone that thing down.
I'm at the same distance from the microphone as before, and I haven't raised my volume.
That is weird, then, because you're like twice or 3 times louder now than my end.
I don't know.
So
anyway.
Yeah, okay. Everybody's just the microphone. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm back on myself here because I've got what I was looking for. So I'm going to pull it up on my screen so everybody can see it. There was one other thing that I wanted to discuss. So as we covered, John Travolta eventually kills off his financier, which was actually kind of funny because he had spent a lot of time whining. So eventually, by the time he hits him in the neck with a pipe, killing him, we were all pretty amused. Howie Long kind of entertained me in this movie in his own way, but he was a henchman. He was kind of a side character. I did enjoy that they did, use the excuse to set off the weapon inside, destroying the helicopter, which was kind of great. But I do want to discuss real quick the relationship between Christian Slater and the female lead. I believe her name was Samantha Mathis, the actress. The way they end up meeting kind of entertained me in its own way. So I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. This is part of their first meeting. So I'll show you and we will discuss. All right, just one sec here. Let me pull this up, and we'll screen share this. All right, so there we are. All right, you can see this Manyninjas, yeah?
Yep.
All right, so the lady here is a park ranger. They basically sent her out. She's already out and about out in the desert, and they wanted her to investigate some trucks, some suspicious trucks that had been around. Basically, John Travolta's, his other minions had been riding around, basically preparing for this big heist. So she's searching it out. And at this point, the two of these two folks have met. She's already tried to arrest him, so they've ended up getting into a fight. And they ended up trading, shots kind of back and forth, trying to take... That gun is actually her gun, because, of course, park rangers, even in 1996, used 6-shooters instead of, say, guns with magazines on them with a reasonable amount, which was what made the fact that that Christian Slater took out a helicopter with the stupid thing even funnier. But she immediately tries to arrest him. She just finds him. She's looking for trucks. and she doesn't find the trucks. She finds a guy who's half passed out, who's walking away from a parachute, and she immediately pulls a gun on him and tries to arrest him. I thought that was kind of fantastic myself.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the appropriate first thing. Yeah, I can clearly see someone that's like clearly identifies the pilot. He still has the parachute on him. In fact, when he was first introduced, he's pretty much bloodied up got a bloodied up nose among other things, and some scratches and scrapes. So yeah, I'm gonna try to arrest that guy and not figure out what the hell's going on first.
Yeah, so you know what? I'll come back. I want to show one more thing in this picture. So at this point is right at the end of their little fight, where basically they agree to work together and figure it out. Because at this point, she pulls her knife on him, he pulls the gun on her, so that so it's a standoff basically, sort of. So let me come off this. So seriously, she's looking for trucks. She finds a guy who's obviously come off a parachute. She did see the stealth bomber fly overhead, but even then, that's not what she was actually looking for. So listen, park rangers, there's nothing illegal about being semi-conscious out in the middle of the Utah desert having fallen off of a parachute. You can't pull a gun on somebody for falling out of a plane with a parachute in the middle of the Utah desert and just wandering aimlessly around. There's nothing wrong with that.
At that point, it's honestly not a very thought out character, and for the most part, I actually have to be honest. Aside from John Travolta, it wasn't even that good of a movie. It's funny at some point, but it's not a well thought out movie. Who's the director of this thing again?
This one here, it was directed by where was it? John Woo.
I actually can't say I'm entirely surprised by that.
Yeah. The thing is, John Woo's influence is not so much in the... Listen, when you're a director, you don't necessarily control the script. Your job is to interpret and make what you can out of it. You can have some input sometimes, but really John Woo's influence is not so much in the plot, because there's gaping holes you can fly that stealth bomber through. And it's not like he didn't have some good actors. You had some good actors in this movie who were capable. But where his influence came in was in something that is worth talking about really quickly. The action sequences. The fight sequences, the way they set it up. They had the gunfights, in the mine shaft as everybody's trying to get control of the nuclear weapons. You've got the climactic fighting scenes where John Travolta and Christian Slater are both... Christian Slater is getting off of a helicopter, getting onto a railway car. And actually, we've completely forgot to mention this point. During the climactic scenes, the way John Travolta is going to get this nuclear weapon from point A to point B is on a railway car, because that's not where everybody's going to be looking. Again, the misdirection. They do foreshadow this at the beginning of the film. The misdirection is he decides to use a different mode of transportation that nobody was expecting. He's going to get on a railway car, and he's actually going to ride down the rails. He's going to set the nuclear weapon to go off in Denver on that railway car, and then use a helicopter, which they had prepared on the railway track, on the middle of the cars, to fly away, and then remotely detonate it if necessary, if the timer didn't work. So it was that part of it again was a good plan. It's like he goes from good planning to questionable planning, back to good planning, back to questionable planning, and it's back and forth. So beyond certain elements of silliness, then you get to that final fight sequence. You kill all the henchmen. Howie Long meets his end by getting knocked completely out of the railway car to his death, a big fall. And then in the end, John Travolta is killed by his own nuclear weapon that is launched into his body and knocks him completely out. But since it's been deactivated at the last possible second by Christian Slater and the remote detonator, after having one final kind of boxing match which mirrors the first one except in the outcome, that's how you finish off your big bad guy. In the end he sort of gets the girl, and then you end the movie. So John Woo, I think, did pretty well considering what he had to work with. It's... In a lot of these action movies, we've got flimsy plots and a lot of plot holes. That's automatic.
That does remind me. One thing we technically did glaze over as part of that last sequence. the helicopter that Slater's character came on was still pursuing the train there. But we completely glazed on the fact that, oh yeah, everyone on that helicopter died because the thing crashed into the side of a cliff, whereas the train was going through a tunnel. Which included, I can't remember, what was the name of it? Pretty much was it the general or something like that?
Yeah,
or
I know
the
what you're
general
talking
commanding
about.
officer?
I'll tell you his name. I'll look it up here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, but basically,
Actually,
the commanding officer was also on there and took over the gunner's spot on this plane, but it completely glazed over. Oh yeah, everyone that was on that helicopter died when it crashed, and no one bothers to bring it up for the rest of the movie.
yeah, he's Colonel Max Wilkins.
Yeah, Colonel Wilkins is a blood smear along with everything else on the helicopter, but no one bothers to bring up the fact that, oh yeah, we just lost everyone in the helicopter as part of the last-minute rescue crew.
Well, in fairness, I'll come back to myself for a second. In fairness, the Colonel, played by Mr. Delroy Lindo, actually an actor who's been in a lot of other movies and things. He's had a bit of a distinguished career. And he was also really great in Gone in 60 Seconds. He was actually played the police officer in that movie as well, with Nicolas Cage. So back to our parallels of the two crazy actors. But by that point, he had been shot and killed on the helicopter anyway. And the reason the helicopter crashed into the side was because it got shot up in such a way that the pilot couldn't avoid it. So he was done anyway. We kind of glazed over it because it didn't really change anything in the plot. A lot of people, people on the side ended up getting killed through the course of this movie. That's kind of they were all ended up being collateral damage in the overall scheme of things.
Wait a minute. You said his position was colonel, right?
He was colonel, yeah.
Yeah. At a certain point, it feels like basically God is like, yeah, we haven't enough fatalities in the film. We need to kill off some of the people. He's like, okay, this is fine, but then the helicopter is like, Colonel, we got a problem. What's the problem? Colonel, you're the black guy, and you know, in the way these movies are set up, they never let the black guy live. Oh, shit. Crash. And the sad part, you know what I'm saying is true.
Did you really play the race card? Seriously?
All I'm saying is if you look at the amount of other people there and other available nationalities inside of here, they had to go after the one and notably competent actor who just happens to be black. Yeah, we need to kill someone. Yeah, pick him. It's because I'm black, isn't it? Yes. We're so sorry. You know it's true. It's kind of sad, but it's true.
Aye. All right. And on that note, that was Broken Arrow 1996. You may submit all your hate mail to Manyninjas. He appreciates any and all criticisms and possibly biological weapons.
What I'm saying is, the guy was doing all right. Why did you kill him off for no reason? And literally no reason. Like, yeah, they could have just put him to fly off there. No, we had to basically just kill off everyone there. It's because we haven't killed enough people here. And because the explosions all in the shit on the train and everything before that, no, we hadn't had enough bloodshed. We just need to kill someone.
Let it go, man. Let it go. That's enough. Let it go.
Although, I still say my favorite kill in there is the investor with the pipe.
That's true. That was nice and solid. The thing is, it was very subtle and very simple.
Yep.
And as per Travolta, that's actually the first person he ended up. The character explained that's the first person he had ever killed, which kind of made it funny considering how crazy he is. That it ended up being on something like that. Hits the guy in the neck with a pipe, which basically crushes his windpipe and ends up killing him.
Yeah, it was entirely by accident. It's like, yeah, this is the first time I actually kills it. I mean, like in person, not over like this. It's saying, I don't see what the big deal is. I just keep smoking.
Indeed. So yeah, that was Broken Arrow. Overall, I feel like a broken record. Forget about the Broken Arrow. I feel like a broken record because in a lot of these movies, I really don't want to harp on plot too much unless it's something glaringly ridiculous, because I don't think, with very few exceptions, you're not going to find too many where it's like, oh yeah, this was a brilliantly well thought out, nailed everything from top to bottom. No. You know what this is? This is a movie where you sit down, you watch with the popcorn, you enjoy John Travolta being insane. Christian Slater, you accept that he's competent, even though he's not terribly interesting. The the love interest is fine, but she doesn't really add that much to it. There are some good actors in here who aren't exploited fully. But you've got an action movie. You've got a very basic plot that you have to kind of work around it. You've got some great action sequences, some enjoyable stuff. And in the end, when it's over, you're fairly satisfied with the conclusion. So you get the main pieces you need. This isn't going to fulfill your soul, but it is going to fill your stomach, so to speak, with enough. There's enough to fill you up, enjoy what you're going to enjoy, and then move on and have a good time. This movie, I think when I went and picked it up, I think it was one of those ones where you can go get it in the bin. The little discount bin, they're not that expensive. You can get this under $10 most of the time. Definitely worthwhile for that. And it does have some rewatchability because watching John Travolta does have some great quotes in this where he talks to Hale, Christian Slater's Hale, quite a few times. The way he taunts him and mocks him. And then, of course, my favorite bit is where everybody's been implying that he's crazy all along. But finally, Christian Slater's like, you're insane. And he's just like, yeah, ain't it cool? And just the look on his face at that moment pretty much encapsulates the movie for me.
Yeah, in terms of the film here, you're going to find it in the bargain bin easily enough there. Yeah, it's worth the purchase there. At least for a good couple of viewings there, it'll earn its money back that way. Especially, let's be honest, face it, you're buying this film, you're buying it with John Travolta, and John Travolta does do a good enough job. It's like, that's your proof of purchase right there, your reason for purchasing this thing.
Indeed. So Manyninjas, shameless plugging, go.
Alright, as soon as this stupid hacking cough goes away, we'll be going back to business with Rented Into Gaming, obviously talking also some stuff, more stuff related to what I've been doing on Con Bravo. And beyond there, I'm actually going to be picking up some new stuff, which I'm also going to be doing in some later video work in the upcoming bit. As usual, at Manyninjas on Twitter. I am Manyninjas.com for the website for more videos and updates. And let's see. No, that pretty much covers everything for the moment there. How about you?
CarlosAlcazar.org. At CarlosAlcazar2, where I'll keep the updates. I did inform that we were going to get pushed back a little bit, so that's where to check that out. Like, subscribe, and comment. I do have a couple of projects that I'm trying to, a couple of shorter type videos that I am thinking of and working on. Coming up with ideas every now and then, writing them down. But I'm also got to actually shoot them and edit them. That'll be part of what's coming up. I'll be working on that. I don't want to promise anything until I know that I'm actually going to be able to deliver sooner or later. But I am going to work on that, and as soon as I have that, I will update that on the Twitter and on the website. Like, subscribe, comment. We use the feedback to try to work on making it better. So that's it for myself and for Manyninjas. That is the action movie show. Our movie next week is actually going to be one of Manyninjas' martial arts movies, but a martial arts spoof movie. We're going to do Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. So I don't know if that's so much an action movie as much as an action movie spoofing an action movie.
It's fun. That I'll tell you right now. It's very, very fun. Oh, we're going to have some fun next week.
Indeed. And maybe we'll bring back the slides.
Slides? There will be slides. And there'll be popcorn. With butter-based topping.
Yeah, so while he's staring off into the distance wistfully, that's it for Action Movie Show. For myself and Manyninjas, thank you very much, and we will see you next time.